Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of the Protection Gap podcast. Today is the first of a small series of episodes surrounding the bane of many advisors' lives, objections and how to handle them. If you've been doing it long enough, we've heard all of them. Now, I've been doing the job 31 years and I've definitely heard all of them. So what I'm going to do is break these down and deal with a few at a time in each of the subsequent episodes. Now, as far as objections are concerned, I like to split them into two main categories. There are objections, and these come after we've presented our advice. So we told the customer what they need, and they'll come up with something like, can I have a think about it? Can I get back to you? My dad said he'd cover me, I'm fine. Those kind of things. And then there are the objections that come early on in an interview. I call them just excuses. It's where the customer is trying to shut you down and stop you talking about protection in the first place. In today's episode, I'm going to deal with this first type, excuses, what they are and how to handle them. As I mentioned, I've heard all of them, and lucky for us, we can categorize them into two main types. And because there are only two main types, we only need two types of technique to overcome all of them. So I call them showstoppers and curveballs. Let's dive into showstoppers first. Right, what is a showstopper? Well, as the name suggests, it's the customer trying to stop your show. It's trying to stop you dead in your tracks and not talk about protection. Here are some typical examples. I bet you've heard all of them. Yeah, well, we only want a mortgage or we only want an investment today. We'll come back and discuss protection at a later date. Do we have to discuss protection? Is it a legal requirement? Oh yeah, we only want a mortgage with you today. We're going to shop around online and find protection ourselves, thanks. Now, these excuses and all the ones that sound a little bit like them have stumped advisors for years. But as I say, they're very easy to overcome. Especially now in the UK, we have our friend, which is called Consumer Duty Rules. Now, I know many advisors see this as a bit of a stick to beat us with, but you've got to look at it as one of the best sales tools we've been given in years. It's not consumer duty guidelines, it's rules, so we can use them to help our customers. So let's say a customer says, yeah, we only want a mortgage today. We'll come back to you in 3 months' time after we've moved into the house, and then we'll discuss insurances with you then. All you've got to say is, well, I do understand. However, under the new consumer duty rules, I actually do need to discuss protection with you at the same time as your mortgage. Now, you haven't got to act on all of my advice, but it's vitally important that you listen to it. Okay, so what I've done there is rather than get into some kind of argument match or pleading match with the customer to keep protection alive and on the table, I've said, it's the new rules, we've got to discuss it. And did you see the way I said it? I didn't make it demanding and pointing. I said, under the new rules, we've actually got to discuss protection at the same time as your mortgage. I then came in with, of course, you haven't got to act on all of my advice. It's just vitally important that you hear it. Now, some of you may be thinking that's a very soft out for the customer, but bear with me. This is the start of an interview. They don't know you. They hardly trust you. You haven't proven your worth by getting the mortgage or submitting the investment. So don't go in with a strong hand by saying, well, you haven't got to act on my advice. It's just really important that you hear it. All we're doing at this stage is keeping protection alive and on the table. We can worry about presenting our advice once we've gathered more information, found out more soft facts, and we know what we're talking about when we present our advice. Leave all the selling and the disturbing for the protection appointment. Don't try and get into it with the customer here. All right, the next one, curveballs. Again, as the name suggests, this is the customer trying to wriggle out of talking about protection with you by telling you they've already got cover elsewhere. Here are some very common examples. Yeah, I'm a director with Virgin. We've got an excellent in-house package deducted from salary, so it's really good. I don't need to discuss protection with you. Well, actually, this is only a remortgage. We saw Bob last time, and he did a great job with our insurances, so we're just going to keep them, thanks. Oh, I work for the police force. We've got some excellent cover with work, so I'm just going to use that. Thank you very much. Now, as I've mentioned in an earlier podcast, what most advisors have been trained to do is then challenge the customer and their employer. For example, well, I know you work for the police now, but possibly one day, maybe, perhaps, you might change jobs. And if you change jobs and they don't have the same package and your health has changed, what would you do then Well, how do you cope? Just don't do it. As I said, you just met the customer. The FBI Behavioral Science Unit referred to this as combative conversation, okay? It's challenging and confrontational. It causes the customer to dig their heels in. Now, if anybody's been in a long-term relationship, you'll know that this type of combative conversation hardly ever goes the way you hoped it would. So if you're not going to do it with your partner, don't do it with a customer. There's a much easier way. Let me elaborate. For this one, I've created an acronym called TOP. So if a customer comes up with one of these curveballs, you use TOP. So first, T, you thank them or you congratulate them on what they've just told you. O, you obtain the exact information of what they are talking about. And P, you use that excuse to position that there's definitely going to be a protection presentation appointment. And here's how that would look. Well, yeah, I work for the police. We got some excellent cover, so I'm just going to use that. Thanks very much. Oh, that is amazing news. I'm so glad you got cover with work. Can you do me a favor and bring all the details in? Because the more you've got, the more I can save you. And I'll use that in your protection appointment. And as I say, hopefully we can save you a nice bit of money. I'm so glad you told me. How easy is that? Not combative at all. First of all, you've said, well done. That is amazing news. They're not expecting that. They're expecting you to go in and challenge them. Now, if you do challenge them, like I mentioned earlier, in about 30 seconds, you've managed to slag off their occupation, put doubt on their likelihood of staying in occupation, and slag off their employer in 30 seconds. Good job. No wonder it doesn't work. So after thanking them, you obtain the information. Can you get me accurate information? Because the more I know, the more I can save you. Well, they're definitely going to bring that information in because you've just said you're going to try and save them money. Who's not going to bring the documents in? Now, once they bring the documentation in, we have full access to their exact cover, which I'll come back to in a sec. And third, I'll use this in your protection appointment. And as I said, Mr. Customer, hopefully we can save you a nice bit of money. Thank you for telling me. That's right. You're still having a protection appointment. Now, when they do produce this documentation, there are three possible outcomes to this. One, it's a load of crap, in which case it's easy for us to show them in black and white with the paperwork that they give us that they actually do need our protection advice. Nice and easy. The second one, they might have some good cover with work, but not all of it. So again, we've got the black and white information. Mr. Customer, I'm so glad you gave me that documentation. Your life insurance is X, that you've got a great in-house click policy. But you know that income protection you thought you had? It's actually a private medical insurance. You haven't got any cover at all. That's why we asked for the documentation. Don't worry, let me show you how to fix it. And you're in with an IP code. Third one, what if they've got amazing cover, 10 times death in service, amazing kick, full IP up to retirement. It is bulletproof. Well, so what? Just say, my God, that is amazing. Do not change a thing. I can't beat any of those quotes. Now, if it's a single person, yes, you haven't sold protection, but why should you? They don't need it. But you've gained their trust and respect, and they will probably stay with you for years and recommend you to all their friends. It's a win-win. Now, if that person is married, there's a very high chance that their partner isn't with that firm. So if you show honesty and say, look, you don't need cover. However, Mrs. Customer, you need everything. Let me show you what you need. Again, you've gained trust. They will listen to you far more than if you fumble through your words trying to pull apart a policy that does not need pulling apart. So there you go. Showstoppers and curveballs. They'll handle every kind of customer excuse that's ever been thrown at you. Give them a go and you let me know how you get on.